Here's a question that sounds crazy until you really sit with it. What if one of the most beloved children's stories of all time is actually a political warning so sharp, so dangerous, that Hollywood had to sand it down just to make it safe? Because the story you think you know about Dorothy, Oz, and those famous slippers, yeah, that version is a lie. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Before we go any further, do me a quick favor. If you like deep dives like this, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories hiding in plain sight, and drop a comment if you've ever looked at a childhood favorite and thought, wait, something feels off here. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll never look at Oz the same way again. Most people grow up with the 1939 movie version of The Wizard of Oz burned into their memory. Bright Technicolor, singing munchkins, a lovable old man behind a curtain, and of course, the ruby slippers. Iconic, glittering, unmistakable. Except, they were never supposed to be ruby. In the original book by L. Frank Baum, Dorothy's slippers were silver. And that single change, that wasn't cosmetic. That was surgical. Because silver wasn't just footwear, it was a message. A message about money, power, and a system rigged so brutally that entire towns were wiped off the map while bankers toasted champagne hundreds of miles away. To understand why Baum hid this message in a children's story, you have to go back to the 1890s, not a fairy tale Kansas, but real dust-choked America. Drought, failed crops, families starving quietly behind closed doors. Baum wasn't imagining suffering, he was watching it happen in real time. He ran a store in Aberdeen, South Dakota, and he watched neighbors who used to buy candy for their kids come back months later, shaking, pawning wedding rings just to buy flour. 50 cents wasn't pocket change, it was survival. Down the street, the bank was packed from sunrise to sunset. Farmers, men who built their towns with their hands, stood in line begging for extensions on loans they could never repay. The bank manager wasn't cruel. He was obedient. Orders came from New York. The gold standard was sacred. Money had to stay scarce. And when money is scarce, prices fall. When prices fall, farmers get less for their crops. And when that happens, debt becomes a noose, tight, slow, and inescapable. Baum watched his own store die the same way, his ledger filled with IOUs from families who vanished overnight. When he finally shut the doors, he wasn't just another failed shopkeeper. He was a witness. He'd seen how policies debated in clean, distant rooms translated into hunger, foreclosure, and quiet funerals. Politicians talked about stability. Baum counted families who couldn't buy bread. So he did the only thing he could do. He wrote a fairy tale. And inside that fairy tale, he hid a weapon. In Baum's original book, Oz is not cute, it's not safe, it's not comforting. The wizard himself isn't a goofy old man with stage fright. He's a nightmare, a towering monster, part animal, part machine, demanding something unthinkable from a child: murder. Dorothy doesn't just have to defeat the Wicked Witch of the West, she has to kill her. Violence is the toll for going home. And along the way, Dorothy and her companions kill again and again. Wolves, crows, entire groups wiped out without hesitation. That's not accidental. Baum was saying something very clear. Entrenched power doesn't fall because you ask nicely. It falls because someone bleeds. That's not Disney. That's revolution. Then there's the Tin Man. And honestly, his backstory is pure horror. Before he was metal, he was Nick Chopper, a regular man in love. The Wicked Witch of the East curses his axe, and piece by piece, it dismembers him. Leg, arm, torso, head. Each time, a tinsmith replaces flesh with metal. And when the transformation is complete, the woman he loved runs away screaming. He can't feel anymore. He can't love. He doesn't even realize what he's lost until it's gone. Baum wasn't subtle here. This was industrial America, factory work. Assembly lines, human beings turned into replaceable parts. You lose a piece of yourself every day, trading warmth for efficiency, soul for productivity, until one day you wake up hollow and wonder why nothing feels real anymore. And then there's the Scarecrow. Everyone remembers him as the silly one who wants a brain, but the cruelest part of his curse is easy to miss. He never sleeps. Everyone else rests. He stands awake all night, thinking, calculating, watching. That's the farmer lying in bed at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, running numbers that never work. Debt compounding in the dark, anxiety with no off switch. The Wicked Witch of the West takes it even further. She isn't just evil, she's empty. When Toto bites her, she doesn't bleed. She's dried up inside. Water doesn't kill her, it reveals her. She dissolves because there was never anything human there to begin with. Baum wasn't writing a villain. He was describing what happens when corruption becomes total, when power hollows a person out so completely that only malice remains. And then we get to the Cowardly Lion. On the surface, he's comic relief. In reality, he's a direct shot at William Jennings Bryan, the great populist hero of the Silver Movement. Contemporary readers knew it instantly. Bryan could roar, he could shake rooms. His Cross of Gold speech in 1896 electrified the nation. "You shall not crucify mankind upon a cross of gold." People wept, walls shook, and then he lost. The banking interests outspent him, outmaneuvered him, terrified voters with predictions of chaos. Bryan folded, again and again. 3 runs for president, 3 losses. Baum watched a man who could make Wall Street tremble, fail to act when it mattered most. A lion with a mighty roar who couldn't find the courage to win. Satire doesn't get much sharper than that. But the most brutal joke in the entire story? The yellow brick road. Everyone tells Dorothy to follow it. It's golden, solid, safe. Except Baum lifted that image straight from real headlines. In 1894, Jacob Coxey led a march of unemployed men to Washington, believing that democracy would save them if they just showed up. Hundreds became thousands. Farmers fed them. Reporters followed them. And when they finally reached the Capitol, police charged, clubs swung, bones broke. Coxey was arrested for stepping on the grass. The Golden Promise led straight into a trap. That's the yellow brick road. Follow the gold. Trust the system. Walk until your feet bleed. And when you arrive, smoke, mirrors. A frightened little man pulling levers behind a curtain, praying no one notices he's a fraud. Even the name Oz isn't magic. It's math, ounces. The unit stamped on gold bars and silver coins. Boom built an entire fantasy world named after the measurement used to decide who eats and who starves. And the Emerald City? In the book, it isn't green. Not really. Everyone is forced to wear green-tinted glasses locked onto their faces. Take them off and the city is gray, shabby, ordinary. Prosperity is an illusion, maintained by forcing people to see what they're told to see. Sound familiar? Baum didn't come up with this worldview in a vacuum. He was deeply influenced by his mother-in-law, Matilda Joslyn Gage, one of the most radical thinkers of her time. Even other suffragettes told her to calm down. She didn't want reforms. She wanted the system exposed as fraudulent. Authority, she believed, was a trick. Power only worked because people believed in it. And that brings us to Glinda, the Good Witch, the final reveal. Dorothy always had the power to go home, from the very beginning. The silver slippers were never just magic shoes, they were the solution the entire time. Silver currency, people power, self-reliance, the knowledge that no wizard, no road, no city can save you if the system itself is a lie. Hollywood couldn't keep that, so they made the slippers ruby. They softened the edges, they turned a manifesto into a musical. And it worked. The message vanished. But it's still there, buried, waiting. And once you see it, the story isn't comforting anymore. It's a warning. About money, about power, about how easily people are convinced to follow golden roads that lead nowhere. So now I'm curious. Did you ever suspect Oz was hiding something darker? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more deep dives into the stories that raised us and lied to us at the same time, you already know what to do. Subscribe. Because sometimes the scariest truths are the ones we learned as children and forgot on purpose.